Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 2022 Winter of Reading Book Buzz. I'm Katie, and I'm a librarian at the Hadley Branch Library, and with me is my colleague Dodie, who you might have seen downtown at the Central Library working in the Books and Borrowing department as a librarian there. So we've got a lot of great titles for you. We've got 28 titles. And those range in publication date from January to March. So we'll be talking about some stuff that's already been published as well as forthcoming titles. And we'll be doing that in chronological order, but don't worry, there is a little something for everyone. And all of those can actually be requested and ordered through our catalog right now if you'd like. And if you want more information on the books we're talking about, just check below in the description for the video. We have a handy dandy handout there for you. All right, well, without further ado, let's get to our first title, which actually has already received starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly. It's a really strong debut novel called The School for Good Mothers by JESSAMINE Chan, which was published on January 4th, available now. And it's a really poignant novel. It starts off by Frida having a very bad day. Her 18-month-old daughter, Harriet, won't stop crying. The deadline for her academic article is coming up, and Frida is exhausted from lack of sleep. But when Frida leaves Harriet at home alone for a couple of hours, it results in Harriet being removed from her care and Frida being sent to a live-in rehabilitation center to try to regain her parental rights. In this chilling dystopian drama that skewers stereotypes and problematic assumptions of parenting, Frida and her fellow incarcerated mothers must raise artificial but eerily sentient children to prove their worth as parents, all while being continually monitored and punished if they fail to follow the rules. This one's for fans of Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, Joanne Ramos's The Farm, or Piper Kerman's Orange is the New Black. All right, the next one on our list is The Maid by NITA PROSE, which was published on January 4th, available now. If you're looking for a novel that straddles the line between cozy mystery and thriller, this might be a great one for you. Our neurodivergent narrator, Molly Gray, has always known that others perceive her as being different and, quote, robotic. She takes solace in her job as a maid at the Regency Grand Boutique Hotel, where she follows prescribed rules and procedures to restore each room to a state of perfection, as she calls it. When she finds Tycoon Charles Black dead in his suite and his wife Giselle missing, her orderly life is upended as she tries to defend herself from the police, who consider her a person of interest, yikes, and her ill-intentioned co-workers. Fortunately, Molly has strong allies to support her as the mystery unravels and the true culprit is revealed. And the ending to this warm whodunit is gratifying. This is perfect for those who enjoy the Flavia de Luce mystery series, which I think has an equally compelling and precocious heroine. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Dodie.
Thanks, Katie, and great picks. Both of those titles flew right to the top of the bestseller list. Something a little different, the first book I'm going to talk about is Midlife Bites by Jen Mann, published January 4th and available now. I think the subtitle of Midlife Bites really nails what author Jen Mann wants to know. Anyone else falling apart, or is it just me? This is an outgrowth of her blog, People I Want to Punch in the Throat, and Mann tackles all the things women generally don't want to talk about with regards to aging and the act of living and being women. While Mann's viewpoint may seem harsh to some, it's truthful, bold, no nonsense, and so freaking funny. Mann writes in a way that's engaging, honest, and makes even the most heartbreaking and mortifying topics seem survivable. For fans of Roz Chast, Can't We Talk About Something More Pleasant? Or Kathy Geiswhite's 50 Things That Aren't My Fault. And yes, it's that Kathy from the comic strip. The next book I'm going to talk about is No Land to Light On by Yara Zagabe, narrated in the audiobook format by Fajir Al-Kaisi. This is literary fiction, and it's achingly intimate yet poignantly universal. This is the story of a family caught up in forces beyond their control, fighting for the freedom and home they found in one another. The story focuses on the romance and forced separation of Sama and Hadi, who immigrated to the United States from Syria. When Hadi goes home for the funeral of his father, his return back to his home with Sama in Boston is abruptly halted by the executive order of then President Trump that restricts any passengers arriving from countries perceived to be hotbeds of terrorism, including Syria. To make matters more difficult, the shock and stress of separation leads a very pregnant Sama to go into early labor. If you enjoy 2013's Americana or Ibalo Mibu's Behold the Dreamers, you will find this equally heartbreaking and powerful.
Oof.
Yeah,
Sounds
Katie,
like that one's gonna make me cry, so I think I'm gonna order that one today. All right, well, on a slightly lighter note, we have Yinka, Where Is Your Osband? By Lizzie Damilola Blackburn, which was published on January 8th and available now. Blackburn's bitingly funny debut novel follows 31-year-old Nigerian British woman Yinka, who spends much of the book avoiding the titular question, which is lobbed at her by her mother and aunties. To make matters worse, after getting laid off from her lucrative position at an investment bank, Yinka finds herself with no husband and no job. Faced with her friend's impending wedding, Yinka decides to embark on a project of finding a boyfriend to bring to the event, in what she calls Operation Wedding Date, and in the process contends with colorism, cultural differences, and prejudice against her faith. Excerpts of Yinka's panicked Google searches, text conversations with her friends, and storyboards for her plan keeps the text fresh and contributes to the hilarity, and the happy ending adds warmth. For fans of Bridget Jones' Diary or the Netflix show Chewing Gum, Yinka will make you laugh out loud and think critically in equal measure. And next we have The Sirens of Sussex by Mimi Matthews, available now. It was published on January 11th. If, like me, you've devoured all of the Bridgerton books and you're looking for your next historical romance fix, this recommendation is for you. Matthews begins her Belle of London series with a multiracial cross-cultural romance novel set in the Victorian era. Evelyn Malatravers is desperate to secure a wealthy match during her London season after her older sister falls into disgrace. But she knows she's more likely to turn heads on horseback than she is dancing in a ballroom. When she commissions half-Indian, half-British tailor Ahmad Malik to make her an elegant riding habit, the two develop an intense mutual attraction through the intimacy of Evelyn's fittings. But acting on their desire means battling societal prejudice and other obstacles. Matthews brings her two fiercely independent and realistically insecure main characters to life with her thorough research of the period. Curious readers can learn even more about the Victorian era in her author's note, which, as a librarian, kind of warms my heart. And it's easy to root for Ahmad and Evelyn's relationship. Looking for more romance novels set in this period? Try Evie Dunmore's A League of Extraordinary Gentlewomen series.
And oh, that cover. I love that cover.
Isn't it beautiful?
All right, next up is a graphic novel. This is Black Cotton by Patrick Foreman. It's available now, published January 11th. Patrick Foreman and Brian Hawkins' Black Cotton flips the world on its head in a simple way, delivering a biting alternate history where racial dynamics in America are reversed. Zion Cotton, a Black Virginia police officer, encounters a white woman walking the streets at night wearing a hoodie. As he approaches her, he is spooked and guns down the unarmed woman. This sends an uproar across the country, and riots and protests spread across America like wildfire. This also brings bad press to the Cotton family, an elitist group, and it makes them desperate to make this bad publicity go away by any means necessary. Black Cotton has that inherent conflict on the surface, and it is handled with the kind of care and finesse that make it stand out. But there's also an added layer of mystery that will keep readers hooked. Art by Marco Perugini delivers evocative black and white tableaus akin to Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead, or even the Twilight Zone series. which is available on multiple streaming channels. Next book up is Yonder by Jabari Asim. This published January 12th, so fresh. This is historical fiction, available now. Yonder is a wonder-filled novel about the power of words and stories to bring hope to the most difficult situations. The novel is set in the mid-19th century on a plantation called Placid Hall, which is within 100 miles of free soil. The slaves call themselves the Stolen, and white people, from plantation owners down to children, are referred to as the thieves. Despite living in a society determined to keep the stolen uneducated and unaware of their surroundings, the enslaved people of Placid Hall hold on to as much of their humanity as possible. Told in quick chapters, many just 2 or 3 pages long, that alternate narrators among the stolen, the novel manages to convey the horrors and vicissitudes of slavery while never compromising each character's humanity. Pair this with Ben Winter's Underground Airlines or The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. All right, this next one is for all you New Year's resolutioners. State Change. End anxiety, beat burnout, and ignite a new baseline of energy and flow by Robin BERZIN. Dr. Robin BERZIN draws on cutting-edge research and her work with thousands of patients to tell the complete story of how our bodies drive our minds, mood, and energy levels. This builds on her work at a nationally renowned holistic health service called Parsley Health, where the doctor and her team of over 100 highly trained medical providers focus on treating the whole patient, yielding extraordinary results for those dealing with gastrointestinal, hormone-related, autoimmune, and mental health conditions. Maybe you would like to read this in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic Guide to Integrative Medicine, or for the little ones in your life, consider the Holistic RX for Kids, Parenting Healthy Brains and Bodies in a Changing World. This will be available on January 18th. Next title is Just Pursuit by Laura Coates, published date January 18th. This is a true crime, social justice, nonfiction title. Told in an urgent, timely manner, Just Pursuit exposes the bias in the justice system from the perspective of a Black female federal prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice and a CNN senior legal analyst as well. Through the prism of her experience, first as a voting rights attorney in the Civil Rights Division and then as a federal prosecutor as an assistant U.S. attorney in D.C., we see a system that perpetuates bias and unfairness. Coates finds herself constantly torn between upholding her oath as a public servant, honored by the opportunity to represent the people of the United States, and at odds with her principles and lived experience as a Black woman and mother. The examples Coates relates from ICE preying on immigrants to a judge shaming a young sexual assault victim drive home the injustices. This is a powerful true story and groundbreaking account of bias in the courtroom, recounting the author's time as a prosecutor. If you want to dig deeper on this topic, consider Privilege and Punishment, How Race and Class Matter in Criminal Court by Matthew Clare, and Halfway Home, Race, Punishment, and the Afterlife of Mass Incarceration by Reuben Jonathan Miller. Now, this next book is to warm the cockles of all the librarians and book fans out there. The title is The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva Jerzik. This comes out, should be available now, and I would put this in the mystery category, but it's also a bit of a contemporary fiction title. While the title clues the readers in that this book has great appeal for bibliophiles, there are plenty of twists and turns and send-ups of academic life for anyone looking for a sharp-eyed look at the world of rare books. Liesl has been working in the rare book department at a prestigious university for a long time under the mentorship of an almost godlike boss. He can really score the library donors. That's his superpower. He's suddenly left incapacitated by a stroke. This occurs just as the rarest of the rare title is about to be put on exhibition and it has gone missing. Then a staff member goes AWOL and Liesl is forced to become a detective while still presenting an all's well face to fat wallet potential donors. Can she find the lost object before her former boss breathes his last breath? For a slightly darker look at special collections, pick up The Archivist by Rex Pickett, or for those who lean into fantasy, Elizabeth Knox's The Absolute Book will not disappoint. Well, you should be getting tired of me, but hold on, I have just one more book before Katie goes. This title is What the Fireflies Knew by Kai Harris, published date is February 1. So you'll find this on order in our catalog. One night in a rundown house on a dead-end street in Detroit, 10-year-old Kenyatta, KB, finds her father dead of an overdose. It's the first big secret she learns, but not the last. After her daddy's death, KB finds herself stranded in Lansing, Michigan for a summer with a granddaddy she doesn't know. Trying to break through his tough exterior is almost as tough as reconnecting with her moody older sister. KB's only hope of companionship comes in the form of two new best friends who are dealing with a family secret of their own, a racist mother who they try to shield KB from. An associate professor at Santa Clara University, author Harris uses her voice to uplift the Black community through realistic fiction centered on the Black experience. Her work has appeared in Guernica, Kelly Journal, Longform, and the Killings Review of Arts and Letters, amongst others. If you're looking for a great read for Black History Month, which is coming up in February, this might be it.
All right. Everybody give a hand to Dodie for talking about 6 titles in a row. That was truly impressive. And now you'll get to hear me talk for a little bit. So this next one is called Black Joy, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Restoration. It's by Tracy Michelle Lewis Jiggets, and it will be published on February 1st. This deeply personal, lyrical, and heartbreakingly beautiful book of essays is an homage to the power of Black joy. Lewis Jiggets not only outlines the struggles of her ancestors in seemingly hopeless situations, but also takes inspiration from the way that they were able to create beauty, art, and more through their joy. While the absence of joy can lead to further physical and even psychological trauma, she notes, quote, our ability to transform our lived experiences, even the ones plagued by trauma, is the very reason why we should internalize our acceptance and release ourselves from any obligation to be something other than who we are individually and collectively. As she outlines her personal journey, Lewis Jiggets invites her readers to learn with her and gifts them with tools to aid them on their own journeys of self-healing, an invitation to find joy and contradict the one-dimensional stereotype of Black pain. Pair this with the collection Black Girls Rock or Jessamine Ward's moving commencement speech, Navigate Your Stars. All right. Well, this next one, Dignity in a Digital Age, Making Tech Work for All of Us, is by Ro Khanna, and it will also be published February 1st. In a world in which technology is getting more complicated and less transparent, even more works about protecting technology users are being published. Ro Khanna, representative of California's 17th Congressional District, has seen the economic and political impact of big tech companies in Silicon Valley. However, he has also witnessed the racism, sexism, and misinformation inherent in such companies, all of which he details in this book. Khanna contextualizes these issues through both policy descriptions and personal anecdotes. He proposes an Internet Bill of Rights to protect the privacy of user data, an increase in the transparency of big tech companies, recruiting tactics to make the industry more diverse, and wider public participation in government policy. For more on the influence of technology in America, check out The Industries of the Future by Alec Ross or Tools and Weapons by Brad Smith and Carol Ann Brown. Okay, now we're venturing into sci-fi horror territory. This title is Clean Air by Sarah Blake. It will be published on February 8th. In the year 2032, trees began producing so much pollen that simply breathing killed millions of people, including almost everyone over age 60 and under age 10. 10 years later, the few survivors of what's called the turning live in plastic domes and try to reduce their time outside as much as possible. When a serial killer starts slashing the domes to let toxic air into people's homes, and her young daughter starts murmuring clues about the crime in her sleep, Isabel becomes obsessed with solving the murders and ends up embroiled in a police investigation. If you can move past some of the eerie similarities between what's happening in this book and the events happening in our world today, you know, maybe being shut up in your own house is too much for you right now, which I understand. You'll enjoy Blake's world building in this blend of science fiction, supernatural murder mystery, and domestic drama. For similar climate change apocalyptic fiction, try Karen Thompson Walker's The Age of Miracles or Matt Bell's Appleseed.
Great read likes, Katie. Those are perfect matches.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I really enjoyed Appleseed and it seemed like a perfect fit. All right, now we have Echo by Thomas Ode Uvelt, which will be published on February 8th. And this is a horror novel in which readers will follow the story of Nick and his boyfriend Sam as they deal with the aftermath of a climbing accident that left Nick in a coma and covered in bandages, and Augustin, Nick's climbing partner, missing and presumed dead. Nick and Augustin had tried to climb the Maudit, an insurmountable mountain in the Swiss Alps, to which they were mysteriously drawn, but they soon learned why few others have tried to reach the top. As Sam and Nick try to get back to their lives after Nick wakes up from his coma, it's clear that something dark and deeply horrifying has been awakened in Nick. Uvelt pens a slow-burning tale with a disorienting dual point of view from Sam and Nick, but the cinematically terrifying and gripping plot will keep you invested in and anxious about what's happening. Those who have devoured Stephen King's novels will definitely enjoy this, although if you want to read more of Uvelt's work, his previous novel Hex is just as terrifying. All right, something more playful from Dodie.
Yes, just a tiny bit lighter. This next title is Pinball, A Graphic History of the Silver Ball. This is a graphic novel, which is also historical in nature. This is on order and is available in the catalog to place holds. This is a true love letter to pinball. If you thought retro was coming back in a big way, you're right. And the reoccurrence of pinball and arcade parlors is proof of that. This illustrated history is packed with information at close to 200 pages, which is probably more than you think you'd like to know about pinball, but once you start, you'll want to know all of it anyway. There are some really interesting psychological observations about how our brains process the game and other games like it. Author Chad also details the evolution of the game from bagatelle in Louis XIV's France through many iterations into what the game looks like today. Anybody ever see a pachinko machine? But the real standout is the art, which is truly wonderful. It's visually reminiscent of pinball itself, a riotous cacophony of detail and color, cleverly and beautifully rendered to represent the subject. Pinball game themes are also covered, from superheroes to gangsters. For casual pinball players, some of the language of the book may come across as hyperbole or lofty, but hardcore fans will likely see a fellow enthusiast. The back of the text has a glossary and gaming tips. If you're a novice player like me, be sure to check out the different flipper techniques. I'm offering a listening suggestion for this one. Is Tommy by the Who too obvious? And to meet a real life pinball wizard, check out Wizard Mode on Canopy. Over to you, Katie.
All right, I think I might need some of those pinball tips, so I'll have to pick that one up. This one is a fantasy novel called A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and it will be coming out February 15th. You might recognize Ross's name because she's previously written YA fantasy novels, so this is her adult debut with a rich fantasy in a magical island setting inspired by Scottish myths and legends. 10 years ago, Jack Tamerlane was sent away from the Isle of Cadence to train as a bard at a university on the mainland. Now he's been summoned back to Cadence by his childhood nemesis, Adira Tamerlane, future Laird of the East, to help find and rescue the children who have gone missing from the island. Presumably, kidnapped by evil spiritual entities. But when another child disappears, it's clear that the spirits are not responsible. Veteran fantasy readers will appreciate Ross's faith-based twist on a familiar elemental magic system, utilizing earth, wind, air, and fire, as well as some rich world building that gives history and depth to the community of Cadence. Unlike some fantasy series, this is going to be a duology, so after you finish this one, you'll just have to wait for one more book. This will appeal to those who have enjoyed the Earthsea Chronicles or Sarah J. Maas's House of Earth and Blood. All right, this next one is a graphic history as well. Putin's Russia, The Rise of a Dictator by Daryl Cunningham is coming out February 15th. Cunningham is known for his graphic, both literal and figurative, research of popular topics, including his books Billionaires and Graphic Science. Here he applies his talents to create a blistering graphic biography of the ruler of Russia. Cunningham's flat yet bright illustrations lead readers on a journey through Putin's rise to despotic power, from his childhood in war-ravaged Leningrad to his election as president to his interference in the 2016 election. Most notably, Cunningham delves into the lives of people that Putin has affected during this time. The strongest emotional blow of this biography is that there's no ending to this disturbing history because Putin is still in power. For a deeper dive into Putin's corruption, you should pair this with Mikhail Zagar's All the Kremlin's Men or Stephen Lee Meyer's The New Tsar.
That sounds like a horror book.
Yeah, doesn't it? Should pair that with Echo.
Yeah.
All right. This one is another debut, The Verifiers by Jane Peck, which is coming out February 22nd. And if you have ever entered the realm of online dating, this book will intrigue, entertain, and, maybe even scare you. Claudia Lynn enjoys her job at Veracity, a detective agency and tech company that investigates whether the matches their clients meet on online dating sites are telling the truth about their identities. Her most pressing worry is how she is going to live up to her older brother and sister and admit that she doesn't want to have the perfect Chinese husband that her mother dreams for her. But when Iris Latrista is found dead 10 days after she asked Veracity to look into her latest match, Claudia realizes that there's a more insidious side to the world of online dating, fueled by lies, deceit, and data doctoring. The sardonic yet inquisitive Claudia keeps the narrative moving, and her reliance on the hero of her favorite mystery series, Inspector Yuan, to solve Iris's death is both entertaining and charming. As I mentioned, this is Jane Peck's debut, and I can't wait to see what she writes next. For similar reads, try Katie DeSabato's The Ghost Network or Barbara Borland's I'll Eat When I'm Dead. All right, we have another YA author making an adult debut here. I'm So Not Over You by Kosoko Jackson, which comes out February 22nd. Jackson here has written a queer romantic comedy for fans of the fake dating and second chance romance tropes. Kian Andrews receives a text from his ex, Hudson Rivers, and wonders why Hudson wants to meet months after they've broken up. When Hudson tells Kian that he needs him to pose as his boyfriend in front of his wealthy family, who, by the way, never learned about their breakup, Kian agrees as long as Hudson uses his connections to help Kian's journalism career. But when an awkward dinner with Hudson's parents turns into an invitation to Hudson's cousin's wedding, the two once again develop feelings for one another. Can they learn to communicate and turn their fake relationship into a real one? Well, you'll just have to read the book to find out. Now, amidst the comedy with this mostly Black cast of characters, Jackson also addresses the pressing social issues of wealth inequality, as well as the intersection of race and class. If you'd like to read more queer contemporary romantic novels by BIPOC authors, check out Adriana Herrera's Finding Joy or Alyssa Cole's How to Find a Princess.
I'm still laughing about the name Hudson Rivers.
I know, right?
I'm so immature. All right.
I did the same thing when I read it.
Maybe I can straighten myself out the next time I go for a walk, which brings up 52 Ways to Walk, The Surprising Science of Walking for Wellness and Joy, 1 Week at a Time by Annabel Streets. So there's another funny. She's writing about walking. Her name is Streets.
Oh.
All right. This book is on order. You can place holds in the catalog. Let's consider this info. Walking in cold weather burns extra fat and builds more muscle. Walking alone strengthens our memories. Walking in woodlands helps us sleep. And there's nothing more restorative than a romantic night hike.
Oh.
Maybe if you're not walking with my husband, but anyhow. Our choice of location, time, direction, duration, walking companion, and gait, as well as the weather we opt to walk in, can transform our daily stroll. Here, Annabel Streets shares the thrill of 52 walking styles, explaining the latest science behind each one, and providing practical tips for making the most of your daily steps. I really have to plug our winter of reading trivia walks here. If you take a stroll through one of 4 Denver parks during our winter of reading trivia walk, look for signs throughout the park and submit your answers to the trivia questions for a chance to win a prize via QR code or by calling 720-865-1111. We'll have this information below when we post the video. The same trivia questions can be found in each park, and each answer is about a different featured book that just might be your new favorite. If you can guess all 10, you'll get a special prize. Come to the library today or visit our Winter of Reading site to get your brochure.
That's a great plug, Dodie. Would highly recommend. I went over to Garfield Park, walked around. It was really great. All right, I'm back with another romance, and we are in March already. A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings will be published March 1st. Reluctant romance readers will enjoy this hilarious, sweet, but not sugary. That's funny for reasons you'll see in a minute. Realistic novel set in, of all unlikely places, a dental school. Not exactly conducive to romance, I think, but you know, it is here. Harper is anxiously awaiting placement into a top oral surgery residency program when she quite literally crashes into Dan, an unenthusiastic first-year dental student. The two set out to be just friends, but despite their best efforts, this plan goes awry. Maisie Eddings creates characters who are down-to-earth, idiosyncratic, and lovable, who deal with their pressing issues of anxiety and childhood trauma as they parse their feelings for one another. Looking for more books for reluctant romance readers? Try Emily Henry's Beach Read or Uzma Jalaluddin's Hana Khan Carries On.
All right, our next title examines a family, and in particular, one member of that family. Booth is by Karen Fowler. This comes out March 8th. It's historical fiction. Author Fowler has a knack for writing large dysfunctional families. This latest novel, Booth, is about the Booth family, 3 members of which remain quite famous or infamous. Junius Booth, the father, a preeminent Shakespearean actor. Edwin Booth, the son who most successfully followed his father onto the stage. And John Wilkes Booth, the son who, you know, shot Abraham Lincoln. Junius is a famous and charismatic English actor and self-styled rival to Edmund Kean, who thrills America with his renditions of Shakespeare when he isn't drunk or sinking the family ever further into debt. Growing up in 19th century rural Maryland, his children become intimately familiar with hardship, early death, and the horrors of slavery. Of the 6 Booth siblings who survived to adulthood, each one has their own dreams they must fight to realize. But it is Johnny who makes the terrible decision that will ensure their names are known to this day. Get deeper into this time period with William Still, The Underground Railroad and the Angel at Philadelphia by William Cashadas, or Louisa Thomas's examination of John Quincy Adams' wife, Louisa, The Extraordinary Life of Mrs. Adams. Ooh, my favorite topic, cooking.
Yes, we had to include at least one cookbook, and here it is, The Walk by J. Kenji Lopez Alt, which will be published March 8th. If the name sounds familiar, you might know New York Times cooking columnist and chef J. Kenji Lopez Alt from his critically acclaimed book, The Food Lab, Better Home Cooking Through Science. In The Walk, Lopez Alt also applies the scientific method to better explain and improve his 200 recipes, including notably how the alkaline properties in baking soda yield juicier, tastier shrimp, which I had no idea. However, the book is also a love letter to the titular cooking vessel. He not only details the specific type of wok one ought to buy, which, in case you are wondering, is a 14-inch flat-bottomed carbon steel wok, and the best cooking techniques for succulent San Francisco-style garlic noodles and ultra-thin mandarin pancakes, but also delves into the culinary history of the wok. Step-by-step photos and a Q&A sidebars interspersed throughout the book will help even the least self-assured home chefs wield their woks with confidence. If you're hungry now, sorry, and also you're welcome.
I'm feeling like Chinese food tonight for some reason.
Yeah, I wonder why.
All right, our next title is a thriller, but it reads a lot like true crime. The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This comes out on March 15th. In 1977, in Clear Lake, Oregon, the community was shaken by the Lady Killer murders. Two men, seemingly random, were murdered with the same gun with strange notes left behind. Beth Greer was a perfect suspect, a rich, eccentric 23-year-old woman seen fleeing one of the crimes, but she was acquitted and retreated to the isolation of her mansion. Flash forward to Oregon 2017. Shay Collins is a receptionist, but by night she runs a true crime website, the Book of Cold Cases, a passion fueled by the attempted abduction she escaped as a child. When she meets Beth by chance, Shay asks her for an interview. To Shay's surprise, Beth says yes. Think Beth should be worried? I do.
Me too.
If you're looking for another thriller with some spunk and humor, consider Darling Rose Gold from Stephanie Roble or Colorado author Barbara Nicholas's At First Light. Next up is a true history. It's a biography or autobiography or biography, sorry, it's The Double Life of Katharine Clark by Katharine Gregorio. It is, in a weird way, this is why I flubbed on autobiography. It's actually written by her great niece. So it's a family member who actually did all the meticulous research behind this. This is a historical narrative nonfiction title, and I think you'll find it's one of the finest you'll read this year. In 1955, Katharine Clark became the first female American wire reporter behind the Iron Curtain, providing essential eyewitness reports on post-war Europe and the revolutions in Poland and Hungary to the American public. It was while on assignment in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, that she befriended Milovan Djiljas, sorry to all you Yugoslavians out there, a high-ranking communist leader and intellectual who became disillusioned with communism and published a number of newspaper articles criticizing the practices of the regime. Clark risked her life to ensure that his articles made it to the West, and she was single-handedly responsible for smuggling his scathing anti-communist manifesto, The New Class, out of Yugoslavia and into the hands of American publishers. The New Class would go on to sell 3 million copies worldwide, become a New York Times bestseller, and be translated into over 60 languages, and be used by the CIA in its covert book program. The Double Life of Katharine Clark shows how a strong-willed, fiercely independent woman with an ardent commitment to truth, justice, and freedom put her life on the line to share ideas with the world, ultimately reshaping both herself and history in the process. For more cloak and dagger intrigue, check out Agent Sonia, Moscow's Most Daring Wartime Spy by Ben McIntyre, and Scott Anderson's The Quiet Americans, 4 CIA Spies at the Dawn of the Cold War, a tragedy in 3 acts. The Double Life of Katharine Clark would make a great read for Women's History Month coming up in March. All right, we're winding it up with a shiny yellow title, Brighter by the Day by Robin Roberts, subtitled Waking Up to New Hopes and Dreams. This comes out at the end of March, March 29th. This is a memoir by Robin Roberts, who's known to many people as the anchor on Good Morning America for the last 16 years. This seemed to be a perfect way to end our book buzz with instilling hope and optimism. Roberts has sought to bring a bit of positivity into each day, even in the most trying of times. Now she shares with readers the guidance she's received, her own hard-won wisdom, and eye-opening experiences that have helped her find the good in the world and usher in light, even on the darkest days. Drawing on advice and knowledge she gleaned from conversations with loved ones, spiritual practices, and life experiences, she offers a window on how she feeds her mind, spirit, and soul, and invites readers to do the same. If you feel like hearing another happy story from a different part of life, you might want to explore professional wrestler John Cena's approach and be a work in progress, and other things I'd like to tell my younger self. Thinking more flow than slam, consider Trust Your Life, Heal Self-Doubt, Awaken Your Soul's Purpose, and Live Your Badass Life by yoga and meditation teacher Shannon Algio. Hey, and you know what? Katie and I are going to be doing a spring book buzz. Look for some news. Yeah,
yes.
We can't wait for spring. If it ever turns to winter, we'll be looking forward to spring. Look for news of that in April. Don't forget to sign up for Winter of Reading, and don't forget to check out all of these great books. Katie's going to run us through a couple of outros here.
Yeah, so you've heard us talk all about books, but Winter of Reading is about more than just reading, which sounds strange, but we've got some really fun events happening. Feel free to pause the video to write some of these down, or you can check them out on our website, www.denverlibrary.org/Winter of Reading. So you'll see we've got a trivia walk, which is happening in the Cherry Creek neighborhood. The Ross Barnum branch currently has a take-home DIY Sharpie mug kit. You can check out a tiny art show at the Decker Branch Library happening now through February 28th. The event, The Home We Share, Poetry Celebrating Nature, is happening on Friday, January 21st. You can register for that online. It is a virtual event. We're also partnering with the Englewood Public Library for a writer's retreat on Saturday, January 22nd. You can attend that virtually or go to the Englewood Public Library in person, but either way, registration's required. We've also got some afternoon trivia happening that day. It will be virtual. You can check out details online. And we've got a really fun Battle of the Books happening that evening. With author Jim Mustich. Very action-packed Saturday that day. That is also virtual with required registration. And finally, we've got in February an in-person Winter of Reading afternoon book tasting at the Schlesman Family Branch Library. Registration is required. Now, if you do want to do Winter of Reading and complete 5 activities in your brochure, you can get one of these cool prizes. You can get a very sturdy camping mug or a tote bag. And I've got my eye on the tote bag because, as you can see, it's got a little button so you can close it. Doesn't flap open like some tote bags. It's a pet peeve of mine. So again, you can check out details for the Winter of Reading brochure, how you can complete that on our website listed there. All right, well, thank you very much for listening to us talk about books. It's one of our favorite things to do, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email us. Both of our email addresses are there. And yes, my name is with a C. That's not a typo.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And we hope that you enjoy some more fun Winter of Reading events. Take good care.